Let's talk some sports, baby.
And remember, make tomorrow better than today and make today better than yesterday. And you know what we gonna do. We gonna holler at you until next time, baby.
All right, fellas, it is week 2 in the NFL, and well, week 1 was full of surprises, and something tells me this week won't be much different. Vikings, Colts, Steelers, Broncos, and Rams, Eagles headline the 1 p.m. action, while Chiefs and Chargers and Ravens, Texans wrap up the afternoon slate. You got Pats heading to Seattle Sunday night, and the Saints are taking on Gruden's Grinders on Monday. So ahead of week 2 in the NFL, we got 5 questions we're going to run down, and we'll go ahead and start with number 1. This one's for you, Jay. So Kansas City, obviously taking that fireworks show they've got to LA to play the Chargers. The solid Bills team comes to Miami. And neither team's quarterback in week 1, which is Tyrod Taylor or Ryan Fitzpatrick, had amazing games. At least Tyrod did win his game against Cincinnati because they can't kick. But do we see the rookie quarterbacks in Tua and Justin Herbert, one of those guys, take over this week?
Well, no, I think the short answer is no, especially definitely not starting. And we got to think about this. I mean, Kansas City and Buffalo being your respective opponents. I mean, do we really want to throw Justin Herbert in there in the fire and, try to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes? I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, that seemed like a very unintelligent decision by one Anthony Lynn. I got to believe he's a better coach than that. And, I mean, it's week 2. I mean, I fully expect Herbert's going to get some time eventually because, the Chargers aren't going to be all that good. And I think the same can be said for the Dolphins. If they're confident in Tua's health, he's going to get the field eventually. We see this with rookie quarterbacks all the time. I mean, we were talking about like Dwayne Haskins last season. Oh, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? No, he's going to play because they spent a 15th overall pick on the guy, and they're just not good. That's what happened. This happens all the time with teams that draft quarterbacks, high in the first round. But again, it's the same thing to me for Miami. I mean, you really want to trot Tua out there against this Buffalo Bills defense, which we know how solid they are. Like you said, this is a really good defense with a really good defensive-minded head coach in Sean McDermott. It's not the time for me. It's not the time for either one of these guys. We'll see them later on, but not this week.
Yeah, I'm with Jay, and it's basically because I don't think I could be wrong. I don't think Tua is – I don't want to say healthy because I don't want to say he's unhealthy. I just don't think he's ready for that.
Not game ready, right?
Yeah, he's not quite ready to go out here and mess around with somebody that actually know what they're doing on defense right now. Like, I don't think you want to put your franchise quarterback through that. So I don't think we see him. And then Justin Herbert, I mean, the only way we see him is if Tyrod Taylor come out here and stink up the joint. He got to really stink it up. Because at the end of the day, we have to understand we still got the cloud of COVID hanging over everybody. So if you have, a less than stellar season, but you can keep your franchise quarterback engaged, kind of like, hey, learning, and you don't have to rush them in, why not? Now, here's the problem. You also have these other quarterbacks that's out here seeing what Joe Burrow is doing, and they want a bite at the apple. Like, I want to be out here, looking like I'm a future, star in the league when Joe Burrow doing it. But at the end of the day, Cincinnati had no choice. The rest of these franchises got a choice. Who the hell was Cincinnati going to trot out there if it wasn't Joe Burrow?
Andy Dalton.
And he's here, and the Darwin wearing a star now. So, they really didn't have choice. But when you're talking about the Chargers, Tyrod Taylor can win you some games as a starter. Fitzpatrick can win you some games as a starter. So you have a choice. So to answer that question, I don't think you see neither one of these guys. It would have to be a blowout of great proportion. And let's be real here. The Chargers ain't blowing out no Chiefs. And I don't think the Dolphins is blowing out no Bills. So it is what it is. But, I don't think you see either one of those guys.
Yeah, so I was maybe thinking that in the opposite, whereas like, the Chiefs come out here and they're up 30 at halftime. Do we maybe see that, or maybe the Bills go out there and do the same thing to Miami? Less likely, but the Bills are still pretty decent. I think I agree. I don't think either one of them would come out. I think the more likely one would be Tua for Fitzpatrick, because he threw some picks and he didn't look. I mean, Tyrod Taylor did the Tyrod Taylor game. I mean, he did what he does every week. Where Fitzpatrick didn't have that kind of magic to him he normally has. So if there was one, I could see Tua coming in first. But yeah, I think y'all are. I think we'll see neither one of them. Let's go ahead and move on. Drink. So Jacksonville, Washington, and Chicago could all be 2-0 on Sunday night. The Jaguars travel to Tennessee. Washington goes to Arizona, and Chicago is hosting the Giants. So of these three teams that no one really thought was going to be that good, which team would be the most shocking to see it 2-0 tomorrow night?
I'm gonna go with Washington. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go with Washington or Arizona. Listen, I just listen. I trust Ron Rivera a little more than I trust Jacksonville and Chicago at this time. Well,
listen. Just real quick to clarify, it's not who is most likely. It is if they're all 2-0, who would be the most surprising to see?
Yeah. Okay, all right, my bad. Shoot. I think I'm going with Jacksonville because I can only name you like two players on that team. Listen.
That's fair.
Listen, I ain't trying to knock on them because they're your team, but listen, just as well as I know. Jacksonville, they've been hosting a yard sale on their team for like the last 2 seasons. Like, let's be real here. Let's call it what it is. And the people that they decided to keep don't want to be there. So it's very hard for me to see, that they're going to go 2-0 or go, but hey, it's the NFL during the COVID season, and we done seen a lot more craziness. So, maybe they can, but I'm thinking I got to go with Jacksonville, man, because the only thing they got going on over there is old Minshew. Everything else is hit or miss. Let's just flip a coin. This might work. That might work. Bring in the wrestling company. We're going to promote that. It's Minshew, and then it's that little pool thing y'all got at the arena. Those are the 2 main attractions. Everything else is just a sidebar. So, yeah, I think I got to go with Jacksonville on this one.
I think I'll take this a little bit of a different angle. I think the least surprising team that would go 2-0 would be Chicago, just because the Giants really aren't that good, and neither are the Lions, even though it took a miracle comeback by Trubisky to shock good old Bob the Builder, as Drink likes to call him. But I think both other teams would be quite surprising, and you could probably use the word shocking. I think Jacksonville, though, going 2-0 and beating Tennessee this week would be more shocking this week. Last week's Washington win was more shocking than Jacksonville's, I think. But yeah, I mean, to go up to caveat on what Drink said about Jacksonville, Dave Caldwell, he seems like the type of dude who, GMs are like calling him about all these players that are just on the trade market, and he just seems like a type of dude that probably just is listing them on Craigslist or something ridiculous like that. It's just an absolute clown show down there. You have to give credit. You got to give credit to the players, and you got to give credit to a guy like Minshew. He goes out there and completes 19 of 20 passes, and absolutely outstanding. But yeah, I mean, if they can beat Tennessee, I think that would be shocking because their defense to me is full of holes. It looks like it's going to have trouble holding up to the run. To opponent run games, despite the fact that you got such, defensive stalwarts in there, the likes of like Taven Bryan. I mean, what a fearsome dude! And
how do you even?
But yeah, that would. I think if Jacksonville goes 2-0, that would be the most shocking. Even though Washington winning again, that would be shocking as well.
Yeah, they're close. I think the thing with Washington you got to think about is, one, they came back from 17-0, down. That doesn't really happen that often in the NFL to begin with, especially not when you're not very gifted on offense to start with. I mean, if you have a defense down 17-0, it's like, pack it in. And then also you're going to Arizona, who suddenly looks really good, and it just knocked off a team that was in the Super Bowl last year on the road, I'm pretty sure. So that would be really impressive. And again, Chicago's up here, but the schedule is like you should probably beat the Lions and the Giants. I'll say for the Jags, they haven't won in Tennessee since 2013, and they would go from knocking off a division rival who looks like they'd be in the playoffs, and then they would follow it up by beating who was one that was just in the AFC Championship, and pretty much does the exact opposite of what the Jaguars do well, obviously, which is running the ball versus stopping the run. So I think it's pretty close, but I might have to edge Jacksonville as well. But Washington would be almost equally as impressive if they take care of Arizona. All right, let's go ahead and move on to number 3, Jay. I think it's fair to say that Minnesota, Philly, and Indy were all pretty big upsets in week 1, all losing. So which of these playoff hopeful teams has the biggest bounce back in week 2? Philly's going to host the Rams, and Indy and Minnesota are going to play.
Well, that's a tough one. I think it's fair to say, all of those teams, it would be in their best interest to, get in the win column. I think the team that is most critical for them to win the game this week is Minnesota. I think they really need this game against Indianapolis, and much of it has to do with the situation in the division. Green Bay came in there against Minnesota last week, and Aaron Rodgers, just for whatever reason, with one wide receiver and 3 iPhone cases, just came out there and threw for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. So Minnesota, they clearly got some work to do in that secondary to get things straight. But because of the fact that they are playing in a division with Aaron Rodgers, and that the AFC South, to me, Indianapolis, they could lose the first 2 games, and I don't think it's going to be, it's going to be a struggle to get back in the thick of things. But that division is not going to be very good to me. I think 9 wins could win you the division, and they can overcome an 0-2 start. And the same, honestly, the same can be said for Philadelphia. I mean, we know how mediocre that division is. I mean, even though Washington got off to a good start, it's hard to see them being incredibly successful this year, as much as we like that front 7. And we know that New York Giants are not serious in all of this. So I would say I would look for Minnesota to have a big bounce back week, because this game is probably this week 2 matchup out of these 3 teams is most important to them.
Oh, yeah. Definitely like what Jay said about Minnesota. I think I'm going to go with Philly, only because I think Philly took the biggest punch in the face of the 3 teams. You're the Super Bowl champs, Carson Wentz, former MVP candidate, you know what I'm saying? And you lose to a team that don't even want to name a logo. Like, what are we doing here? And not only did that, you had a 17-point lead and you lost. So I think of these 3 teams, they took the biggest, criticism. Like, what are we doing here? I think they have the most to prove. And so I think I got to go with Philly. I think Philly bounced back. They get their stuff together. And look, the Rams out here with the American Express card, and they out here, showing off their new toys. They just keep paying guys. And I think they have the make to beat the Rams after how I seen the Rams play last week. I'm going up that. Carson Wentz got to bounce back. He got to bounce back. Dougie P got to bounce back. It's some stuff that need to happen in Philly, because they took a lot of heat for that bull job that they rolled out last week. I'm going with Philly.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for I think Minnesota is probably the biggest team that really needs the bounce back here. I would agree with Jace, because, again, your division's really bad or really good. So if you losing 2 is really bad for your team. And I think that Minnesota is a lot better than what they played like in week 1. I just think there's too much on this team to be playing like that. And Indianapolis is going to be a good test. But I tell you, like, Phillip Rivers, for what they wound up doing to lose the game, Phillip Rivers was still torching the Jags secondary for a while. Minnesota, with those secondary problems they've got, that could be rough. I mean, if those guys don't figure it out pretty quick, I mean, he could put up another good bit of yards on them and eliminate those mistakes. It could be a different story. But I think Minnesota's going to get it done, right? I think they're going to control the clock, run the ball. Dalvin Cook's going to have a big game. I think the Rams might beat Philly, just saying. I don't know. I kind of like what I saw of the Rams in week 1. They're paying all their dudes. They're doing their thing. I don't know. We'll see. But the defense looks like a lot more of a competent unit than they have been. So I don't know. But we'll see how it plays out. Let's go ahead and move over to number 4, Drink. You got Dallas. They blew it pretty big in week 1, speaking of the Rams, against them in multiple ways. So Atlanta is coming to the Jerry Dome 1 p.m. So the Cowboys wound up losing this game to what is a suspect Falcons team. We know how the circus is around this team. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is the panic meter at for the Cowboys?
I'm going to go it got to be 6. I'm going to go 7. I'm going to tell you why. First of all, the Falcons got this lame duck coach that just out here wearing the headset until you get the pink slip. First and foremost, right? And then you got the Cowboys out here with this put together offense. Like, you can say whatever you want to say, but this offense on paper, probably top 5 when you include all the talent that's on this offense, and they only made it better. Oh, by the way, you only got the same offensive coordinator you had last year. Oh, by the way, you just brought in a Super Bowl winning coach. So, like, what are we doing here? Now, if you defensively, they got some problems, not going to lie. And they took some injuries. They took quite a few injuries in week 1. I got all that. But still, you still got enough talent to beat this version of the Atlanta Falcons. Like, let's not mince for words here. You should be able to beat them. I'm not saying like they bottom of the barrel, but they're definitely beatable for a team like the Dallas Cowboys that invest so much into their offense like they have done. You got way too much money out there on the field. And listen, I'm going to tell you like this, Mr. I want 40 mil. If you cannot beat the Falcons, just hang it up, bro. Stop asking for this outrageous money, finish on a franchise tag, and hopefully somebody need a quarterback that you can go to in the offseason. Because if they go 0-2, I don't want to hear this, hey, they can get away with it because this is Mike McCarthy's first year. No. Like, that ain't it. That ain't it. Maybe Mike McCarthy can get away with it because it's his first year. But the rest of this team, no. Y'all out here, you want to break the bank. You want to do this and do that. Win, you got to win. Bottom line, you got to win. So I think, yeah, I would say from 1 to 10, it got to be about a 7 at that point.
Yeah, I think 7's about right as well, and you could probably argue just a little bit higher, maybe in the 7-8 range, because and the biggest reason is because it's Dallas. And, everything's just magnified in Dallas, and just and you know how it is with all the Dallas Cowboy fans. Oh, this is our year, and we're saying it for about a part of 25 years, and it's never their year. And I'm dead serious. You brought up the point I brought up on several times. There will be the built-in excuse that, oh yeah, Mike McCarthy's first year. We're trying to get comfortable with him, and that's why we couldn't do it, and that's why Dak couldn't make enough plays. And despite all the talent that he has, and we juxtapose that with some of the nonsense that Carson Wentz. You got a bunch of Madden creative players out there. And he still finds a way to get it done. Generally speaking, especially go back to week 16 of last season. And that's all you need to know. And that's all you need to know why Carson Wentz is worth the money and why Dak isn't. I'll tell you one thing, if the Cowboys lose this game, it's going to be about a 10 panic meter for the Dak Prescott agency, whoever, is representing him, because they losing dollar bills if they can't find a way to win some of these games. I'm telling you, I think we all still think the Rams are the bottom of the barrel in the NFC West. Yeah. And the Falcons, I mean, it's going to be – you would think they could be better than Carolina, but I don't think that's a sure thing, because Dan Quinn is, like you say, he's a lame duck coach. I mean, it's him and Matt Patricia. Those guys, they could have been gone last year, and the prospects aren't brighter for them this year. But, yeah, it's a 7-8. I think this is a game you have to win. But also keep this in mind, much like we just said previously, 9 or 10 wins could win this division. They could win the NFC East. But the Cowboys, what's going to happen. They're inevitably going to go 8-8. They're going to miss the playoffs by a game, but they'll have the built-in excuse of Mike McCarthy's first year, and we'll franchise Dak again, and we'll give him the Kirk Cousins treatment.
Yeah, real quick. I mean, I think it's a solid 8. I think this team has a lot of expectations, and internally at least, and I think that the Cowboys have sent a message to Dak, like, maybe they aren't thinking about paying him long term. I mean, you talk about the franchise tag. They didn't move. I mean, they never wavered, and I think they're looking for big things out of him. And if you're 0-2, I mean, if Dak goes 41 of 50 for 450 yards and 4 touchdowns, they're probably winning. You know what I mean? So if he does say he has some extraordinary game, they're not going to lose. So if they lose, it's likely he had a rough game, and it's just kind of adding on to that fuel of the fire of, hey, maybe this isn't we got to go shopping. But now you've got this, like, a lot of guys that are paid and ready to win now. Your coach kind of ready to win now. You're going to get a quarterback. It could be kind of a mess. All right, Jay, last one. According to the Elias Sports Bureau, the 2020 Texans are the second team to face the reigning MVP and Super Bowl MVP in their first 2 games. The 2004 Colts, the other, having faced Steve McNair and Tom Brady in weeks 1 and 2. Those Colts went 1-1 in those games and finished 12-4. So is this game a must-win for the Texans?
No, this ain't a must-win. Because, listen, I mean,
History repeats itself.
No. Listen, no, you just forget about it. I ain't even gonna say one negative thing about Bill O'Brien in this mini segment, because the Texans got dealt the most rawest deal imaginable, like Drink said, first place schedule and all that. But my Lord, to have the last 2 regular season MVPs plus the Super Bowl MVP for last season in back-to-back weeks, and we expect completely 100% for these 2 teams to be the class of the AFC. Don't forget, Houston, they got no chance. Absolutely no chance. Forget about it. And I ain't even, look, we can come back and holler at Bill O'Brien and criticize, some of the things he do, particularly as a general manager, that, ain't up to par. Don't get me started on that DeAndre Hopkins trade. But no, this ain't a must-win. Of course it ain't a must-win, because there's no expectation for them to win anything this week. No.
Listen, look, this is a first place schedule, but golly, man, did you really have to do them like this? Listen, the only thing worse than having to face these 2 teams in your first 2 games is the fact that you trade away DeAndre Hopkins for 2 flapjacks. Listen, I don't know what Bill O'Brien did, but man, he got a string of bad luck. Like, listen, you got beat up all offseason for having the worst trade, and it wasn't even close. And then they hit you with this schedule like, hey, man, look, listen, you're a pretty good team, so you got to play other pretty good teams. No. This ain't playing other pretty good teams. This is playing 2 of the best teams back-to-back, and I ain't talking they got old Hall of Fame quarterbacks. They got young, in their prime quarterbacks over here. Like, come on, man. You
could argue these quarterbacks haven't even reached their prime. Right? You know what I'm saying?
So listen, the Ravens, it's people predicting them to go 16-0. Come on, man. Then I gotta play Patrick Mahomes fresh off a 503 contract. This is bull crap. So listen, I'm with Jay on this, man. It's not a must win. Listen, they are playing with house money. So if they were to win, you can only go up from here, right? So, but must win? No, I don't think nobody going to fault them for starting 0-2. Nah, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I mean, hey, what though? History repeats itself. 1-1, you get that too. I don't remember what the stat is. Whereas like you start 1-1 versus you start 0-2, and your playoff chances, like the numbers go. But I think the point we made earlier about some of the divisions being weaker, I think they could probably recover from 0-2 if they need to.